To start out with, though, this whole issue of piracy and the pirates, Johan Hari is writing in The Independent. Some of these guys clearly gangsters. Others are trying to stop illegal dumping and trawling. I find this fascinating. Ahmed Alub Abdallah, who is the UN envoy to Somalia, on record says, somebody is dumping nuclear material here off our coast. There is also lead and heavy metals such as cadmium and mercury, you name it. The reporter for The Independent says much of it can be traced back to European hospitals and factories who are passing it along the Italian mafia to dispose of cheaply. He says, when I asked Mr. Alud Abala what European governments are doing about it, he said nothing. There has been no cleanup, no compensation, and no prevention. At the same time, other European ships have been looting Somalia's seas of their greatest resource, seafood. More than $300 million worth of tuna, shrimp, and lobster are being stolen every year by illegal trawlers. The local fishermen are now starving. And he asks the question, and this obviously is not in any way, not even remotely, to justify piracy. As I said yesterday, it's like, the guy who walked into the 7-Eleven famously here in the United States a week or so ago, got caught on camera with his 5-year-old daughter and stuck a gun in the guy's face and said, give me all the money in your drawer. I just got laid off and I'm not going to let my daughter starve. Well, I'm sorry, there's no justification for doing that. So this is not any attempt to justify it. But this question, this question is, I think, a significant one. Do we expect starving Somalians to stand passively on their beaches, paddling in our toxic waste, and watch us eat their fish in restaurants in London and Paris and Rome? Walid Shoebat is representing himself as an expert on terrorism. His website is Shoebat, SHOEBAT.com, and an organization that cries out for the justice of Israel and Jewish people is the headline for the Walid Shoebat Foundation. But Walid, in his books, why we want to kill you and whatnot, represents himself as a former Palestinian terrorist. At the age of 16, you were involved in putting a bomb on top of a bank in Israel, Walid?
Yes, sir, except I'm not an expert.
Okay, all right. Well, you're...
And at times I can't stand the experts.
Right. But let's say you're offering yourself to the media as a person who can talk on these issues.
I've lived it. I know what it is. I can put my mindset in the back and back up a little bit and put my mindset how I used to think, and I can tell you how I used to think, which is very similar how these pirates think.
So how do you know how these pirates think?
Because I used to be one of these terrorists thinking the same way. And let me tell you, if you want to know how we think, I can tell you.
I'm listening.
Okay. Now, the way we would think about this issue is that there is constitutional rights. Now, remember, I don't believe this now, but I believed it then, so I'm playing the devil's advocate in this case. We believed that all non-Muslim nations are attempting to stop us from our constitutional rights. What constitutional rights? And that is to establish an Islamic legal system, Sharia law. And under the Sharia law, we are entitled for non-Muslim entities, especially the West, to pay us tribute, jizya taxation, from the Quran, which says, حَتَّى يَدْفَعُ الْجِزْيَةَ عَنْ يَدٍ وَهُمْ صَاغِرُونَ, that they pay the jizya by an upper hand, may they be subjugated or belittled. All non-Muslim entities must be subjugated under Muslim entities. Since you are not Muslim, and these ships are coming in the shores of Somalia, they have to pay tribute. This is part of the history that America had to deal with Benjamin Franklin. In fact, the same question that you Americans are asking was asked. Jefferson asked Sidi Hajj Abdul Rahman Ajja, this is in the 1700s, why do you pirate our ships? We did nothing against you.
And they tried it with the Treaty of Tripoli that was negotiated under the Washington administration and signed by John Adams, and claiming that America was not a Christian nation.
That is correct. And they have to pay tribute. And if we die, if we are killed in the process of you fighting us back, we go to heaven. In other words, it's a win-win situation for us. So now you killed 3 of us or 5 of us. Now we have been done injustice. This is how we used to think. This is
Yeah.
how
So you believe that these pirates have suddenly emerged in the last 15, 20 years now, off the coast of Somalia, since that state has failed, and its seacoast has become a dumping ground for toxic waste from the Italian mafia and European corporations, and European and Chinese trawlers are stripping all the fish out of their waters, and their fishermen are starving. You think that they have emerged suddenly because of Islam?
That is rubbish and excuses that are made. The bottom line is that a Shabab Youth Mujahideen movement, which is a terrorist group, close ties with Al-Qaeda, have made Somalia their breeding ground. Al-Qaeda
Well, of course.
using in Afghanistan.
I mean, any failed state that they're gonna step in, particularly a Muslim failed state, they're gonna step into and try and do that. But it seems to me that you're well. Here's a question. You write, in 1993, Walid married an American woman. After attempting to convert her to Islam, she challenged him to study the Tanakh, the Jewish Bible, and to learn about the principles of Judeo-Christian life. 6 months later, after intense studying, Walid realized that everything he had been taught about Jews was a lie. Convinced he was on the side of evil, he committed the unthinkable sin for any Muslim. He became a Christian. And you say, I first dedicate this book to my wife, Maria, and my American family, who cared enough about my soul to introduce me to the values of peace, love, and joy, and allowed me the opportunity to discover I had been living a lie. If they had not done so, I possibly would be behind bars at Gitmo or have become a dead martyr, right? These are your words.
Absolutely correct.
Okay, so how would you suggest, since you have been redeemed, you have awakened, and by the way, going back to the Quran, let me stay on this one. Since you have been redeemed, how do we redeem others?
I see. That question was asked to me at a conference I gave in the Air Force Academy. And what I said seemed to have irated all the media. I said everything should be on the table. That is, including annihilating terrorist camps, but also including reaching out to the terrorists through shortwave radio, through missionaries, to convert them to Christianity. If we can convert them to Christianity, then we will not have no problem, because every single terrorist that I've known that shed the mantles of hatred and terrorism have adapted the Christian faith and did away with Islam. Boy, I was criticized. There was articles in the paper. You should see the vehement reaction in the media for what I said, that I was trying to preach Christianity.
Well, what you're saying is the same thing that Christians have been saying for 2,000 years, and Christianity is an evangelical religion. But
it's the right of this nation. It's the right of the people to say, let's bring ex-drug addicts to Christianity. Let's bring ex-terrorists to Christianity. Let's bring that. It seems to work.
You somehow seem to be overlooking the 90+% of Muslims around the world who are not terrorists, or the 99% probably who are not terrorists, who have no interest in this, who are, shall we say, many of them even secular Muslims. And why not try to bring about a reformation within Islam rather than forcing Christianity on these people?
Hold on. Now you're speaking.
We have about a half a minute, Walid, by the way.
Right, you're speaking like a typical American. The statistics prove that what you're saying is not accurate. The Pew statistics shows that 65% of Pakistanis support Al-Qaeda. 55% of Jordanians support Al-Qaeda. You won't find any Muslim website in the Arabic language.
That was not the case before the invasion of Iraq, though.
That is the case before the invasion of Iraq. That is the case before the invasion of anything. 3/4 of suicide bombing exist in Muslim countries that have no occupation whatsoever. Can you tell me why? It has nothing to do with occupation. It's got something.
Well, I think it has to do with dictators. If they're not occupied by us, they're occupied by people who are perceived as puppets of us.
Then we need a half-hour discussion on this issue.
Yeah, I think you're right. But unfortunately, we can't have it right now. Walid Shoebat, people can check your website out, shoebat.com. Thanks, Walid, for dropping by.
Thank you.
Good talking with you. We'll be back at 16 minutes past the hour.